말이 아니야. 사람.
456번.
Squid Game Season 3, man, this is the end of another journey, the end of another series, another historic show. And bro, I was hella emotional when I watched this season 3, man. I mean, there was so much going on, a lot of feelings, a lot of mixed emotions about the ending and things of that nature. So I really had to take a couple of days before I did this review, recap, reaction, whatever you want to call it. And I had a lot of realizations and a lot of, forthcomings about this series that I definitely want to share with y'all. Let's get right into it. First off, I want to say I got mad respect to the writers and producers of Squid Game for ending this series after 3 seasons, right? A lot of times we see TV shows when they get success, they just want to drag shit out, an original storyline, and we're all just captivated by, this main character, Gi-yeon, and, his journey through, finding himself and going through the games, seeing people, interacting with them and kind of realizing what he had gotten himself into. One of the things that I could say is when it comes to this character, the writing was so take that kill, right? To take those kills. Then you see the opposite end, right? You have someone like player 333 who's just completely selfish, right? Refused to be a father to his child, refused to, tend to the mother of his kid, and, found himself as one of the best main characters, protagonist, that we've ever seen in television, man. I mean, his performance in this series, especially in the 2nd and 3rd season, and his transformation as a character was absolutely phenomenal. He deserves an Emmy. Now let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Detective Huang, however you say his name. What was this, y'all? I mean, this dude literally spent 3 seasons, or 2 seasons, if you will, looking for the games, looking for the island. He turned into a Coast Guard Navy guy, just riding around at sea, looking for the island, right? And he made no traction. He made no progress throughout these 2 seasons, and it just really frustrated me that they kind of wasted his storyline, wasted his character. I felt the way that they ended his storyline, with the front man kind of leaving the baby at his crib and leaving the money with his essentially not his. I didn't really understand that from a storytelling perspective, maybe, because I feel like he was one of the best characters in this series, like such a complex character. You could never really read him. You could never really, understand a sequel series and, following him around the games and seeing, if he joins another game or, he continues that story and into, the Squid Game series. I know they're doing an American series for whatever reason, which I'm not really huge. Remake everything and continue everything. I'm not sure how I feel about that. When it comes to the front man specifically and his character arc and his character development, his journey, I would love for them to dive deep into that for sure, right? Understand the makeup and kind of what this character went through to make him who he is. Obviously, we've seen kind of that flashback, him killing all of those people, to kind of win the game, and him kind of trying to trick Gi-yeon into doing the same thing. And I'm very intrigued by this character. Obviously, even in a prequel setting or a sequel setting, I would love to kind of see if he continues to be in the games and how he kind of continues to navigate, what if it gives him purpose. There's so much about this character that we don't know. Like I said, he's such a complex character that there's so much about him that we don't know. And that I kind of feel like that about this whole show and this season. There's so many questions that weren't answered. And I feel like season 2 was kind of a setup for questions to get answered. But in season 3, we didn't really get a lot of that. We didn't really get a lot of these answers that we were kind of craving and asking for. So I hope that they've given us an opportunity to do that. Now, finally, to kind of tie things up, obviously, like I said before, they are planning on doing an American Squid Game spinoff sort of thing here in LA. And they actually kind of teased that in the final episode. It kind of felt like an end credit scene where you had the front man, driving, and, he pulled down the window and he's seen another woman, kind of like the other dude who was, kind of recruiting people and stuff like that. You had a white woman who was recruiting this one guy, playing that game with him, kind of slapping him up and things of that nature. And, they kind of glimpsed at each other for a second and kind of acknowledge each other. And it's almost like an unspoken understanding. And it seems like, they've taken the Squid Games on a global platform, right? We know we've seen some of the VIPs talk about how, that the best games were in Korea. So we know that these games are likely going to go global. Like, they could turn this shit into a whole universe, kind of like the Power universe for you Power fans, right? So I think that, it'll be interesting. I'm not too huge on the whole spinoff thing because, Squid Games was such a great series in and of itself, and trying to replicate that is going to be very difficult to do and will likely fall short. But they don't care what I think. They're going to do what they want to do. But overall, I love this series. I loved it, and I hope people appreciate this. No, it's not often we get a series that, is transcended and touches so many people across the world like this. So, definitely I hope that they, take care of this franchise if they do plan on continuing it and expanding. And, just don't water it down. Don't try to just make a bunch of money like other series have done in the past. Really do this story justice. And, I was so passionate about this show that I had to do a review. I usually don't do a bunch of movie reviews and recaps, but I'm definitely diving more into that sector with different shows and movies and stuff. So expect more content like this in the future. And I'm definitely going to do one on the F1 movie with Damson Idris and Brad Pitt coming this weekend. So stay on the lookout for that as well. Peace.